podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Funk's now gone slower than Fox as we've come through 19 out of 23, and she's hit the green and she's done. Kimberly Woods surely has won this bronze medal. She's going to carry on now and try to go back up into the third, but it looks like she's got penalty points of 50. Kimberly Woods finishes third. Jessica Fox is the Olympic champion once again. Incredible scenes for the French and for Adam Burgess, as you say, because he did not want to finish fourth. Gaston was silver in the World Championships. Adam, of course, was fourth in Tokyo, but what an achievement, Nigel. You said he's ranked 11th in the world. He's now Olympic silver medalist.
Sounds good, doesn't it? Olympic silver medalist. Yeah, pretty special day.
The red and white painted poles that we'll see, those are the gates that Joe Clark has to negotiate upstream. The green and white rings around the poles, those are the gates that he must negotiate downstream. And Joe Clark is off, very powerful.
The feedback I've had from back home is the kayak cross event is a spectacle to watch. Hopefully it's going to get more bombs in boats.
I'm not sure that UK radio has ever had quite the coverage of canoe slalom and the new Olympic sport of kayak cross than some of what you've just heard on talkSPORT, the official Olympic broadcaster for Paris 2024. But it was, frankly, a great games to do it. I'm John.
And I'm Michael, and Paris will go down as the most successful Olympics and Paralympics ever for Paddle UK. That is the newish name for British canoeing. So we're delighted to welcome our latest guest in this season of the Great British Bosses podcast from Anything But Footy. These are the behind-the-scenes conversations about sport in the UK.
Thank you. My name's Ashley Metcalfe and I'm Chief Executive at Paddle UK.
Ashley, we'll start where we are. What a summer.
It's been an unbelievable summer, both on and off the water, to be fair, but on the water in particular, Paris was just amazing. I think huge credit to all our paddlers, our athletes, but our support teams and coaches and all the staff that have been involved in making it such a memorable occasion. To be out there to witness the slalom and the kayak cross was just phenomenal. And then a couple of weeks later to go back and see the Para Canoe and the exploits that they delivered and the successes was again equally amazing, and huge credit to everybody involved. It was a games that just kept giving as far as paddling was concerned.
4 medals at the Olympics, 8 medals for Para Canoe. Did you know that was coming, Ashley?
We dreamed, if I've been brutally honest. I think we set ourselves internally some pretty challenging targets. And we were hoping for around 1 to 3 medals for the slalom. And again, the paddlers delivered phenomenally well. I think, it's very difficult to criticise. We could have had a little bit more success. But, again, it was so close. The excitement, the jeopardy was amazing. And I think as a spectacle for all the crowd, again, it was a phenomenal few days. Much credit, particularly Adam Burgess, who seemed to have been the nearly man for so long. For him to come through and finally get an Olympic medal was phenomenal. And then Joe Clark, Kim Woods, again, they delivered when it really, really mattered. So 4 medals was a great return. And above expectation in many ways. But again, when you look at the standard of our athletes, we knew full well if the stars aligned and they were in great form mentally and physically when we got to the line, we had a chance. And that's all you can ask for on the day. They were hugely competitive and they really, really delivered.
And let's just dig a little bit deeper initially into those Olympic medals. You mentioned Adam Burgess. What I was struck with was also the way he supported his teammates. He was so helpful to Kimberly Woods, for example. We know, and we've spoken to Adam about the breathing company, if you like, that he's starting up at the moment. And he was using those skills with Kimberly. And then for Joe, I was on commentary when he didn't win a medal, but then to bounce back to win a medal. It says quite a bit about that quartet that you had at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, I mean, they're a very close team. We've been working hugely hard over the last cycle to bring people together. At the end of the day, there are a number of individuals competing and sometimes competing against each other, but equally we try and bring them together as a team so they will help and support each other. And much credit goes there to Mark Ratcliffe as the performance director and all the coaches involved for actually getting the best out of them and really maximising the talent that we have on display. But yeah, I think, it was really nice to see the athletes in particular help each other. and to bounce back, I think that's one of the great things about sport. It's not always good days. And it's, sometimes when you have a disappointing day and things don't go quite so well for you, it's how you bounce back from that. And you're 100% right. Joe Clark, for the majority of the kayak, the men's kayak, was comfortably the quickest paddler. And then sadly, when it really, really mattered, made a really small mistake, couldn't quite get it back, and ended up, a second and a half off gold and ended up fifth. And that just shows how tight the competition was and how close it was, how exciting it was. But, to bounce back in the kayak cross as he did was brilliant and exactly what he deserved.
And then obviously to have to go back for the Paralympic Games. And as John said, 8 medals, including 4 gold. Some of these names, like Charlotte Henshaw, of course, we know really well. But to have returned to the scene of the Olympic triumph and do it all over again at the Paralympics must have been a huge thrill.
Absolutely. It was an amazing, amazing set of performances. Huge credit to all our paddlers and our coaches, Chris Ferber as the performance director, for leading the team so well. Charlotte Henshaw in particular, winning 2 golds back to back as she did, was just phenomenal. And then also golds from Emma Wiggs and Laura Sugar was a phenomenal effort. If you look at the fact that, there's only 10 golds on offer in total at the games, and for the GB athletes to come away with 4 of those was just amazing. And they've a huge, huge amount to be proud of.
I mentioned, Ashley, it's the most successful games in Olympic and Paralympic history for Paddle UK. Must be a favourite now, then?
If life was always so easy. It was amazing. I mean, I think I've been fortunate over the years to go to Rio and then see Tokyo from a distance, but to actually be at Paris and witness it, and the atmosphere was phenomenal. And again, much credit to the French and the French supporters that got behind both the kayaking and the para canoe so well, and the sprint, to be fair, but all 3 disciplines was hugely supported, and it created a great atmosphere. So it was a really enjoyable occasion. And it actually stands us in good stead now as we start to think 4 years ahead to Los Angeles and even further to Brisbane in the future.
I was going to ask, how do you kick on, Ashley, from that? Because, you're a marketing man, you know how to promote your sport and get it out there. And I think we all agree kayak cross was absolutely incredible. And the atmosphere with that huge grandstand was unbelievable at times. But what do? We can't wait till LA.
No, I mean, I think it's a hugely exciting time. We can learn and enjoy everything that came out of Paris. But actually, the next 4 years are absolutely crucial. And I think, what's really interesting, kayak cross, nobody really quite knew what the results would be on whether people would enjoy it or not. I think it is extremely exciting, lots of jeopardy. And it did capture the imagination of the crowds and the spectators that were watching, both live and on broadcast. So I think we've got opportunities to try and use that to inspire the next generations of paddlers. I think certainly in the UK, we'll be using it, kayak cross, to really try and invite and appeal to a younger audience and try and build on that in larger ways. I think the interesting thing for me is that the sport of kayak cross will grow amazingly as well, because at the moment it's still in its infancy and people are still learning, but it's getting more competitive. People are learning tactically how to paddle in different races and in different circumstances. And I think that's going to get better and it will become more exciting over the next 4 and 8 years. I think it is here to stay. And I think the exciting thing is that it appeals to a much younger audience and it should bring in greater interest into the sport, both at elite level and at recreational level as well.
What can we do to keep the interest levels, to keep that excitement from Paris harnessed now over the next 4 years? Because this is a question and a conversation that we've just had with Drew at Aquatics GB, and he was talking about needing to build on what they did at the British Championships, but how much more of a challenge that is when there's not Olympic qualification up for grabs. So what can we do? What are we going to do?
I think it's the $1 million question. It's a challenge and a challenge with not many easy answers for all national governing bodies and all sports. I think all we can do is appeal and make sure we promote and raise the profile of both our sport and recreation, but most importantly, into our athletes. How do we raise the profile of our athletes more so that we can use them as great ambassadors to inspire the next generations? I think we've been really fortunate within paddling that we've got really, really good people, but we've got to leverage that and maximise it moving forwards. I still think, we're almost the best kept secret in British sport. It's a fascinating sport. It's hugely exciting and challenging, far from easy, but hugely rewarding when people get it right. And I think, the other beauty of it is that we have within Paddle UK, we have 10 different disciplines, not just the Olympic and Paralympic sports. So we have something out there to paddle for everybody, no matter what age, what size. There's no barriers to actually going out and enjoying the natural surrounds out on the water and really, I suppose, achieving some mental and physical benefits as a result.
Because I think one of the things people don't realise is, when I entered a dragon boat race down the River Ouse in York, actually I was kind of under your jurisdiction at Paddle UK with that, wasn't I?
Well, yes and no. The International Canoe Federation are putting a greater focus on dragon boat. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that develops over years to come and whether or not that will at some stage be trying to find entry into a future Olympic Games. But I think dragon boat is another great example of people getting out on the water and really enjoying the opportunities and proving that, you can be part of a team. It's not just an individual sport. You can be part of a team and have a fantastic time.
This is Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy. We're speaking to Ashley Metcalfe, CEO of Paddle UK, and we've talked a lot about the Olympics and Paralympics, understandably. But as you say there, Ashley, you're in charge of so much more than that. And that is why you rebranded to Paddle UK.
Yeah, we rebranded last March. It was a big decision. There was a fair period of consultation with all our different stakeholders. But it became really clear to me that we actually needed to remain really relevant, really inclusive, and most of all, appealing to a younger generation of potential paddlers. And what was really clear from day one when I started was that lots of people kept coming to me and say, I don't need to be involved with British canoeing because I don't canoe. And over time, it became really obvious to us that the one thing that kept everybody together and brought people together was the paddle. So how did we make more of that? And actually, we have 10 different disciplines that offer anything from stand-up paddleboard, rafting, canoe polo, whitewater racing. There's lots of disciplines out there where there is something for everyone, as well as, your more traditional disciplines such as marathon, sprint, slalom, and now the newest discipline of all, kayak cross. So we kind of regard ourselves as a bit more than a national governing body. We're almost a national governing body plus, and trying to maintain and help grow and develop all the disciplines. Has its challenges as well. Some NGBs just have one discipline to look after and to focus on. All our disciplines want to be successful on the world stage and the European stage. And then 2 or 3 of the disciplines have the added advantage of being involved with Olympics and Paralympics as well. So, it's a big task. We also have, when you look at it more widely, we've 80,000 members, and the vast majority of those members aren't competitive either. They are purely recreational paddlers that want to enjoy the great opportunity of being outside in the fresh air on the open blue waters. And, they're more happy in many ways if they could see a kingfisher at the bottom of the garden than actually trying to have any ambitions to win a gold medal at a future Olympic Games. So, they will tell us actually they're keener on how we can push for greater access so they can paddle more in different areas. Can we get and drive for cleaner waters? How do we help influence and lobby at government level around clean water in particular, and how do we hold the government and water companies to account if that's not the case? And how can they paddle safely? So, from our point of view, it's about giving the right opportunities and the right environments and ensure people can enjoy it, but in the safest possible manner. And then ultimately, they all want to paddle over time a little bit better. And so how do we help educate people to paddle not just safely, but a little bit better as well?
Well, you brought on to perfectly the question I was about to ask. You mentioned about the blue water, the clean water.
Yeah.
You have to campaign, and obviously we've seen a lot in the last year or so, 18 months, unfortunately, of water companies and the amount of sewage that we know is going into the rivers and the seas. How, as a CEO, then, Ashley, do you work out your priorities? Because you've got, as you say, 80,000 members, you've got 10 sports, you've got Olympics and Paralympics, you've also got to help clean the rivers. How do you prioritize that?
And again, that's hugely challenging because traditionally there will have been a large focus on the performance side of sport. And I think gradually we are evolving towards that broader outlook. How do we really look after that broader base of membership? And particularly, how do we play a part in improving the environment, and how do we become more sustainable as an organisation and as a sport and recreation as well? So I think there's lots of conversations going on at all levels, from government right the way down to our grassroots membership. So we have to play a part there. And we are, we invest. We've a small team of individuals that work 24/7 trying to hold people to account, but also to promote and clean the water up themselves. And how do we encourage our clubs and all our membership to clean water as well and respect the outdoors in the right manner? So I think the focus is changing. We are more than just a performance-based organisation. We've a huge part to play when it comes to the environment and looking to the future in the correct manner.
And how important then is it to work with the likes of British Triathlon and British Sailing, and to be aiming to try and do that together?
Again, I'm a great believer that collectively we have a much stronger voice. We can have 80,000 members, but actually if we all join up, we have a much larger number of voices that can influence and can start to change people's views and minds and start to hold people to account. So, we are heavily involved with triathlon and rowing and the RYA with and a number of other organisations with the Clean Water Alliance. And again, it's hugely important. Actually, there is a bit of momentum now, and the new government seem to have a greater appetite to try and drive change as well, which is hugely encouraging. So yeah, let's see what it goes, but we won't rest. We're fully committed to continuing to hold both the government and water companies to account.
We know that we're in challenging financial times at the moment. Are you doing this work because you need to show the government, need to show the public you are more than just what we see at an Olympic or Paralympic Games, or is it being done because we know it's the right thing to do?
I think it's the latter. We know it's the right thing to do. And I think, this has been a voice that's been growing for a number of years. It's not been done because we feel it's going to generate greater income. Actually, what it does is gives us an opportunity to use our own independently earned income to invest into promoting and growing those campaigns. But it's not something that we're doing to suggest that the government should be funding us more. This is the right thing to do. I kind of look at legacies, and again, you only have to sit and listen to what our members and our grassroots paddlers are really telling us. It's not rocket science. They are desperately keen, to paddle on clean water and have greater opportunity to do so.
Talk about you a little bit, Ashley. You joined in 2022 to Paddle UK. You can hear the passion that you have for the sport, but it's very different from British weightlifting, where you were before, and also your former career as a professional cricketer.
Totally different. And I find it quite challenging at times because I'm not a paddler. And I keep threatening to get on the water, but I'm looking for that really hot, sunny day in the middle of July or August. I do think for me, it's got me hooked, well and truly hooked as a sport and as a recreation. I find it hugely exciting, but equally challenging as well. I love the fact that I can learn, and every day is almost like a school day, and you never stop learning. So to be involved in something new is excellent in that respect. I also think it's quite nice now and again to put a different lens onto a very traditional and historic sport that's had some fantastic achievements over a long, long time that we should never not respect. But it's also quite nice to look at it from a slightly different angle, from a totally different lens, from individuals that have not been involved. So I kind of look, yeah, it's a change. Weightlifting was a change as well, and although I'd done a bit of free weights when I was playing as a professional cricketer, I didn't know a great deal about Olympic lifting either. But you can learn, and you learn very quickly. So it's never been a fear or a thought in my own mind that actually you can't get involved in something that you don't know a huge amount about when you first start.
Has that been the biggest challenge then, to actually come into the sport and not really know the intricacies of it?
I think it is, but equally, I'm not there to coach. I'm not there to pass technical information on. I've got fantastic people around me that work within the organization that can do that. The beauty of it is I can ask those individuals as well the questions that are challenging, and some of the questions I do get asked by our members on the riverbank when I'm at events and out and about meeting people. So I don't think it's a major problem. I think the other great thing is, I say, you're learning all the time, and I think if I wasn't challenging myself and I wasn't learning, then I'd find it more difficult. So I look at it. I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's often really, really nice, as it was in weightlifting, to try and earn respect again. It's the same as when you're a professional sportsman. You only earn respect by your results and your performances, and I think that's no different in your normal day-to-day working life.
So let me ask you this: when you were sat in front of the board being interviewed, when this job came up, did you tell them that they needed a rebrand based on your wealth of experience in business and marketing, or did they tell you they thought it needed a rebrand and you told them how you would do it?
No, I think at the time what I did say was that they were a best kept secret, and that they needed ideally to lift the profile. I did explain, when I was asked if I felt as though there were any challenges, I did explain that I thought the name wasn't always as helpful as it may be. They may think it might have been. So I knew from day one that, and some of the research I'd done, the name was a little bit of an issue in my mind, looking at it from very much from the outside. But again, respecting the heritage and the history that British canoeing had produced. And it's always a huge decision to change a name. But again, I kind of looked from a marketing and a commercial point of view. It made sense to be more relevant and slightly more appealing to a broader audience.
And where you started, the International Federation, the ICF, are following.
Well, I think it's quite nice that we're ahead of the game. My only frustration is that Australia slightly beat us. Paddle Australia came first, and I hate to follow the Australians in so many ways. But I think Australia were the same. They knew that we had to evolve. We knew we had to be more appealing, more inclusive, and more relevant if we were going to succeed in the long term. And I think it's really positive news that the International Canoe Federation are going to change to paddle worldwide over the next period. And I think from that, there will be a multitude of other, both continents and member federations, that follow as well.
Final couple of questions then from me. What's coming up? You've had an amazing rebrand. You've had an amazing Olympics and Paralympics. Yes, you're talking about LA and Brisbane further on, but what have we got to come in the near future for Paddle UK? What should we be looking out for?
I think it's interesting because we've had great success at Olympic level through our slalom teams and our Para Canoe teams at the Paralympics. We've got some challenges, and we've got some reset to do within our sprint program in particular, to make sure that as we move forwards, we can show real progress with our sprint paddlers. And I think that's going to take a lot of work. And, we've been doing quite a number of reviews over the last 9-12 months to make sure that we can hit the ground running in the new cycle, the LA cycle. And really, we're planning there. It may take longer than Los Angeles. It may be Brisbane before we start to see really good results. But we've got to start from scratch. And we've got to find ways to work more closely with our sprint community and our racing clubs. We've got to generate greater interest and bring young, talented paddlers with ambitions to be successful through and give them the right opportunities to be able to deliver come Los Angeles and Brisbane. So there's a huge amount of work to be done there. But equally, across the other 7 disciplines, they've all got ambitions to succeed on the world and European stages. So that from a performance side, that growth and development work never stops. I think we've also got work to do around how we develop and grow our recreational paddling. And again, that doesn't stop. How do we really offer real good value to our clubs and our grassroots members? And beyond that, equally, how are we going to continue to try and be a louder, more visible voice when it comes to campaigning for the environment and for clean water and greater access in particular?
Well, that was going to be my other question. Let us know when you're going on the water, because we'd all like to come and support you.
Well, what we will do is invite you guys when I do go on. It'd be great to go on at the same time, and we can really enjoy, whether it's at Lee Valley or whether it's here at Nottingham. You're more than welcome anytime, and that will force me to go on the water. That's the downside.
This is becoming a running theme of this podcast, where we try and get John certainly to take up opportunities to try new things. So far, we've committed him to a game of paddle, to run the Great North Run, and now we're going to get him in a canoe as well.
A canoe or a kayak, your choice. But you're very, very welcome, and I'd be delighted. We could actually do a 2-man kayak or canoe, and we
one man's enough. Ashley, it's been fantastic to hear from you and about the organisation and the fantastic work that you're doing on and off the water. Ashley Metcalfe, CEO at Paddle UK, thank you for being the latest guest on Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy.
Thank you very much.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.